is Joe for Johnny VR here, and we're back with another interview. I haven't done one of these in a while, but we're back, and today we are here with Quartz, to get some
But you
interviews.
can call me Quartzius. That's the full thing, But I'm just Quartz on here. But I'm
Yeah,
Quartzius, so
Quartz T is
whatever you
whatever
want
he
to do,
just.
I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, but today we're
whatever
gonna
you
have a
want.
little interview talk. Ask some questions, get some behind the stories, and see how his life became to be. So, first question, you know. When it came to understanding about Christianity, what led you to look furthermore into this religion and what caused you to turn to this religion?
Yeah. So really, I would say the way that I went about turning to Christianity wasn't quite the right way, and I had to kind of learn that recently. I did it kind of out of a motivation of fear rather than being invited,
Mm,
and that wasn't the best way to do it. You know what I'm saying? But I learned something really important from this. But then again, I did it in a way that actually helped me realize what it's like to get closer to Christ. So the journey I've had trying to get closer to Christ has actually been a pretty tough one. It hasn't been sunshine and rainbows at all. You know, I had lived in a lifestyle of sin, and that's why I kind of want to turn to it, which is a good reason to. Don't get me wrong. But I guess I kind of slapped requirements on my face when I first started getting closer to Christianity. And here recently, I've had to learn that, while I have to take the initiative to get closer to Christ and I have to do what's necessary for me to do, I have to let Jesus Christ lead me and help me to do it. It's not something that I do 100% by myself. And that's kind of how I had it. I was being an extremist. I went through mental health issues because I was taking Christianity the wrong way. And that's a very important lesson is, when you get closer to Christ, you want to make sure that you're letting Christ lead you, but you want to make sure you're taking the initiative. But you don't slap things on your face because, it's something where you grow. You grow in your faith. You don't just wake up one day and know how to handle everything. It just doesn't work like that. But
right.
I thought that's how it was supposed to work when I first started. And so, I had like a rough start, but here recently, it's been getting to where I'm learning to rely more on Jesus Christ while doing, like I said, what is necessary for me to do. And I think it's a very important lesson, as learning just how important it is to trust Jesus. Because we, being sinful humans, we can't really trust ourselves. I mean, we have to deny ourselves after all. It tells us to do that. So that's honestly where I'm at now, and today I'm starting to learn more, and I'm really glad of the wisdom that I've been shown, through who I believe is Jesus Christ.
Now, that's honestly a good testimony right there, if I can't say so myself. Y'all agree, don't you? Yeah.
W's. Bandit, shake your head, or not
Yeah,
shake
see,
your head, nod your head.
Brownie knew. Brownie knew. Now,
W. W?
Um, the
Or
second
brownie, I
question,
guess.
right? Yeah, W. The second question. When it comes to mental health issues and you trying to resolve that, how would you go forth in letting somebody know that it's okay to go through what you go through, but also trying to motivate them in the process?
I would say, first of all, it's really important that we recognize with mental health issues that they work in mysterious ways that we don't see until we suffer from them long enough. And so motivation can be very hard, especially when you're in the midst of it, because when you're going through mental health issues, people go through what you would call derealization, for instance, which is where things feel dreamlike and things don't feel real. You feel emotionally detached. So motivation can be a hard thing to do, and that's why you take little steps at a time. So when it comes to mental health issues, you kind of have to learn to embrace how you're feeling. You take how you're feeling and you don't fight it. You don't do all that. You don't put all your attention on the mental health issues, and it's easier said than done. But when you learn just how important it is to let feelings just be and focus on what's important, you know it will really profit you a lot. And then you can find the motivation to get closer to Christ. Because, unfortunately, when it comes to mental health issues, it's not, again, it's not an overnight process. Just like faith isn't an overnight process, mental health issues isn't either. Because we train our brains to think a certain way, and it's not always the best kind of way.
All right.
And we train our brains to fear, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to build our faith off a rocky foundation. Otherwise, we're going to live with what I had, mental health issues. So to be motivated means to recognize what it is that you're going through and recognize that sometimes the anxiety that you're having is from things that you caused, and that you're not supposed to fix them by trying to fight them. You're supposed to fix them. Okay, someone just left. Sorry. You're supposed to fix them by not letting them take you over. You're supposed to not fight them back. Just let them be there. It's hard to do, but live your life, and recovery is possible. And that's what I had to learn. And then you find that motivation naturally because you're realizing that, you made mistakes and I made mistakes. And when you realize that it is possible to recover, you will find motivation. It just comes about. So that's how I would say you should go about your life. Live it out as if you're not having anxiety. Live it out as if life's great.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, life is great and you can get closer to Christ.
Amen. That I'm telling you got to get connected to some people that know some real stuff. Now watch this. This next question is gonna be powerful. So question number 3, right? Yeah, 3. How would you go about no, based off of the mistakes you made when you was going through mental health issues and how you tried to address it, based off the mistakes you made, what would you tell other people not to do when they're trying to address their mental health issues?
So, yeah. So, really, it kind of just ties back to I would have to tell someone that I'd have to tell someone the honest truth. We tend to think that when we have mental health issues, there's no way out of it. And it's a really hard feeling to deal with. So if I had to help someone based off my own mistakes. Well, first of all, let's go over some of the mistakes I made. Here again, like I said, I was depending on myself. I was fighting my mental health issues. I was just trying to do everything that I knew I couldn't do within my own power. I guess we can resume.
Mhm.
Anyway, guys, what I was trying to get at was the first thing I would have to address is that, I've gone through mental health issues a lot. So someone who goes through mental health issues is someone you want to, first of all, run to. If you're having an issue, you know, you want to find people who've been through it, because when you go about telling people who don't understand, you kind of just get yourself into this like state to where you feel like no one's going to understand because they can't. You know what I'm saying? You have to go after people who understand, and people can give you their own stories as well. I made the mistake of kind of concealing my own feelings and not kind of, letting them out to like my pastors and everything because I made the automatic assumption that they wouldn't understand. And there's nothing wrong with you guys, addressing these issues to pastors or people you trust or people who you believe may know what it's like. And if they
Right.
don't, you go talk to people who do understand.
Mhm.
And other than that, there's books that can help you with this stuff. I mean, the Bible is a really good resource to understand God and understand how He can heal your mental health issues. But when you're in the midst of those issues, it's hard to take what the Bible says seriously sometimes
Mhm.
because you're already so stressed out. And I understand that feeling. That's what I went through. So there's a book that I read called At Last Alive by Paul David, and it addresses the issues and mistakes that I actually noticed I was making. So it's a really good book. It talks about pretty much what I just told you guys, about not fighting your anxiety, letting the feelings be there. And it's a really good book that I would recommend to any of you guys. We're not sponsored by anyone. But yeah, no, I would say if I was to help someone myself who's going through something kind of like what I did, that would be what I'd tell them is you're never going to get better until you stop trying to get better. And
Right.
that's a hard thing to understand because naturally when you're going through something, you want to get better. Everyone wants to. They want their life back. It makes sense. I understand. But would you rather have a lifetime of anxiety trying to fight it, or would you rather go about taking the time it takes to recover? You know? Because think about it. Once you recover from these things, you'll be able to look back one day and say, wow, it was all worth giving up the fight. That's how I feel, and that's where I'm at. So I'm not perfect myself. I'm speaking this as someone who still suffers from anxiety, but I see the light in being able to recover. And in recovery comes faith in Jesus Christ as well. And that is how I can build my relationship with Christ on a foundation that is the rock of Christ. Not off a foundation that's going to fall over, but a foundation off of the rock of Christ. And that is very important. I really encourage you guys to do this. If you want to get closer to Christ, do what you have to do. But what you're supposed to do is usually nothing, as I said. So just live your life and take this advice, seriously. I mean, it might really help you, even if it seems hard. Just take the advice and at least try it, and be patient as well. Patience is key. This does not happen tomorrow. Okay, This can happen over the span of a few months or however long it takes for your body to recover. It's natural, and it's just what you have to do.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I hope that y'all are taking on what he's saying because oh, if I was going through some stuff, I would take his word and I'll run with it because when it comes to mental,
Absolutely.
I told y'all mental health ain't nothing to play with. It's really not.
Mental health matters. I know he's doing a movement for it, or he was. I don't know if you're still doing that, but
Mental
it
health,
does matter.
yeah. That's so. Question
Absolutely. And you learn to
number
help others.
exactly. Got to know about that. Question number 4. Um, how did you? Why did you? What motivated you to come into a guerrilla game to try to motivate people when it comes to mental health and motivate them when it comes to guiding them to Christianity? What motivated you to do that?
I would, oh, I just like that. Sorry. So honestly, I would say that it wasn't necessarily my intention when I initially joined. I guess I didn't really see where it was going. Like for this code specifically, the reason I joined this code was because I was, a growing Christian. I wanted to kind of meet other people. And even though we're not a guerrilla game, we're still all real humans with real emotions. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really matter if you're behind the screen as a legless monkey. I mean, it really doesn't because we are people who all have feelings and, we can really learn about a lot of people off the internet. The internet's not always a corrupt thing. Sometimes it can be, but it's not always. I mean, look where I'm at. It kind of motivated me even just joining this code and everything that we join, and it's given me some more clarity just by being here. So when it comes to online interaction and why I joined, it was because, like I said, I was a growing Christian. I wanted to kind of meet other people. So now when I look at it, it's like I'm recognizing people who I'm around. I mean, I see a lot of people with the mental health issues, and they're not all the same as me, or what I have dealt with. No, but they fall under the same umbrella as, it's an issue and it matters. And so really it takes similar steps to get over what you're going through as to whatever you're going through. It takes similar steps to actually overcome and recover from those things. And if I can be a light to anyone who needs help, I would love to be. I mean, if I can have the skill to say that I went through something so I understand, I don't want to just say, well, I'm not going to help no one. I'm not going to just make no use of it, right? I mean, if you go through something and you can help others, why not take use or make use of that? That's why sometimes when you go through something, that's why I say this, so much, it really helps you understand that the things you go through can be used to help others. I actually learned this off a speech from Charles Stanley, when he talks about trials and tribulations. So if I can be a light in any way to anybody, that'd be my honor.
Yes, so amazing. That's exactly the same story. What I go through personally. I don't want to see anybody else go through exactly what I went through or go through anything worse than what I went through. So I try to be a light every time I can possibly can. Tell people my DMs are always open whenever you need me. Just let me know. I'm here. I'm here for you. It's an understandable process.
Right.
This is gonna be the last question. Question number 5. What for my Christians specifically this time? When it comes to prayers, you know, that you would that you would pray for yourself. What are some prayers that you would recommend for other people to pray going through mental health issues and problems?
Okay, yeah. So I'm actually glad that this question was asked to me because prayer was something I had trouble with since I couldn't feel emotionally connected to God because of the prolonged mental health issues I had. So when you're going to God about your mental health issues, first of all, be completely honest with him, okay? It don't matter what the issue actually is. You have to be honest with him, okay? So the prayer that you pray specifically depends on the situation and circumstances, but it all includes honesty. It includes telling God and addressing to God exactly what you're going through and why it's hard for you to overcome it. Because, I mean, we learn in the Bible that all things are possible through Christ because he
Hmm.
strengthens us. That's a verse. I can't remember exactly which one. I think it's in Philippians.
Philippines
I might be wrong, but
4:13.
yeah. I figured I just didn't want to misquote it, but yeah. So it all comes down to a personal prayer from you that is just honest. Okay, we don't need all these fancy words and this vain repetition, you know. We learn in the Bible that you don't have to continue repeating yourself in prayer. This is another thing I did. God already knows what you need before you pray for it. It's just he wants you to take the initiative. That's what he wants you to do. He wants you to be honest with him. Humility matters. So when you pray to God, tell him, God, I'm going through this mental health issue and I don't know how to handle it. Please show me the way to get out of this. Or how I can come closer to you in the midst of the storm. I mean, that's what you got to do. And when you pray about these things, like me, I had to be patient. So you guys need to be patient too. Prayer isn't something that you do once and expect results instantly. Prayer is
Mm.
something that takes repetition. Sometimes even fasting is a very important aspect of, prayer life and getting closer. It is when you take time to be honest with God and devote what matters to God and, just trusting Him in the process, which again is very hard to do. So that's why you're honest with Him. So if you're having trouble trusting Him, for instance, tell Him. Don't hold it back. I mean, He sees your thoughts already. He reads the heart. So tell Him how it is, and let Him work how He has to work. I actually seen a video, that my mother in fact posted. It kind of popped up, on my feed at a very special time, in a time that was actually perfect. And it talked about when we feel it's because we're trying to do the job. Okay, we expect to get results instantly from prayer. We expect God's timing to be our timing, and that's just how we are naturally. But we need to recognize that's not how it is. Even if it feels like it has to be, it's not. So you pray with honesty. That's what you do, and you let God do the rest.
Amen. I'm telling you. Yeah, if y'all don't know anything, I think I posted a video on it or a short about it. If I didn't, I will. The power of prayer is strong. It is because what you give unto God is, I promise you, he's gonna take it and he's gonna give you exactly what you prayed for. It might not be every single thing, but it's gonna be exactly what you need within the prayer. Because
Right.
there's a lot of
He
people
knows
out
what you
here
need.
that's just praying for like $1 billion and like, and here goes the
Yeah.
thing behind this. Like, when you pray for things, don't pray for nothing. Don't pray for just money. Don't pray for just a new house. Don't pray for a new car. But pray for guidance and understanding in God's words, most importantly. Because here goes the thing. When some of you pray for over $1 billion, let's just say, you don't realize that you can say you want to help, you're going to help the homeless and you're going to help your family with that, but God can see something totally different in your heart. We all know this because with the money, with the prayers that you pray, God knows what you just prayed for. You can open up a door that can harm you and you won't be able to close that door that you just opened. And I try to tell people this every single time. I tell them, like, don't consistently pray for things that is worldly, but pray for things that is going to spiritually benefit you, so you can open up a door that's going to bless you even more than the money that you prayed for, than the car that you prayed for, than the house that you prayed for. Pray for your families better, pray for your better, pray for your friends better, pray for your spiritual betterness. So then when you get spiritually better and you actually trust in God, then God will start blessing you with more things that he know you really need. But right now, $1 billion wasn't one of them. But the power of prayer is strong because it works. I'm telling you, it works. So I prayed and God answered. It took him a couple of days, but he answered. And sometimes God answered right then and there. Okay? But understand.
Sometimes it can be instantly. I'm not saying that some prayers aren't instantaneous, but a lot of times, at least for me, it wasn't instantaneous.
Yeah.
Which that's all right because it took. I mean, it literally just took going through the storm. I mean, actually, I'd like to add something. You know what? Because this is like really important. Here's why I think God lets us suffer. Okay? Because I'm gonna be honest. I think for me, it taught me something. If God was to give you, like even mentally, if He was to give you everything you wanted and allowed you to feel exactly how you wanted, just think about it. You would probably get into this mood, and I'm not saying you would, but a lot of us would get into this mood to where, well, we don't need God because now we feel great. You know, we don't need God. We did it ourselves. We can do it ourselves.
Right there.
We get into this ego.
Preach
That's
it.
why He's letting you go through it. Even when you pray for it, and like you're like, well, I'm being humble now. Okay, go through it for as long as you have to go through it, and let God handle it because He just doesn't want you getting an ego. If he really cares about you, he's not just going to give you everything you want.
Right
If you live
there.
a perfect life, then what do you expect to happen? You know?
Marion in here.
Right there.
Yes.
Right, exactly what you just said. Like I told people that I'd be like, if God give you everything that you could have ever possibly wanted, you will not lean on Him anymore. Exactly what you
Yeah.
said.
Exactly.
But guys,
Come
thank
on,
you guys for tuning in. God has been so amazing
Marion.
and so good and so grateful.
Flying.
But I want to let you leave you off with this message: do not ever give up on God, but always
Never.
trust in Him. Because I promise you, when you trust in Him, He's always gonna come through. Let me just add this: His
When
timing
it
is
feels
not
like
our
he isn't
timing.
there, he is.
Exactly. When it feels like He isn't there, He's there. I'm telling you, he's probably just behind the scenes, but He's making movement. He's
We have
working.
another monkey come up here.
But thank you guys for tuning in. This is gonna just be a pure faith interview, because pure faith. But shout out to our brother Courts here,
Yeah.
and guys, drop in the comment sections if you love this interview. Bye.